The FA Cup has gained legendary status for the countless tales it has produced throughout its history, from underdog stories to dramatic finals. But there's one story from its history that might be the most unusual of all. In 2001, Wycombe Wanderers went on an unlikely FA Cup run and faced Leicester City in the quarter-finals. Lawrie Sanchez was on the lookout for a striker in preparation for the game and found one in an unlikely manner. This is a story of Lawrie Essandoh, Wycombe's Ceefax hero. Wycombe Wanderers appointed Lawrie Sanchez as manager in 1999. He has a positive association with the FA Cup, having scored the winner in the final when Wimbledon defeated Liverpool in 1988. Wycombe's best finish in the FA Cup previously had been the third round, having not been a part of the Football League until 1993, when Martin O'Neill took them there for the first time. They achieved promotion to Division 2 next year. Lawrie Sanchez saved Wycombe from relegation in his first season and took them to 12th in their second campaign. The next season would be unforgettable. The league campaign was nothing special as they finished 13th, but when they faced Harrow Borough in the first round of the FA Cup on the 18th of November 2000, they had little idea about the journey they were about to experience. Wycombe defeated their neighbours Harrow 3-0 to set up a tie with Millwall. This match was a 0-0 draw at the Den, but Wycombe won 2-1 in the replay to advance to the third round, where they faced Grimsby. A replay was required again, but the long journey to Lincolnshire was worth it, as Wycombe won by 3-0. This set them up against First Division outfits Wolverhampton Wanderers. The tight game saw Wycombe pull off a shock as Sam Parkin headed in a winner, 5 minutes from time to seal a 2-1 victory. They had already gone further than before in the competition, and Sanchez's side was starting to dream. Sanchez would be against familiar faces in round 5. Wimbledon would host Wycombe in the 5th round, and it was an intense battle. Wimbledon were 2-0 up at half-time, and it seemed as though the dream was over. But after a triple substitution from Sanchez, strikes from Michael Simpson and Stephen Brown levelled the tie for Wycombe, and the replay would be held at Selhurst Park 3 days later. Wycombe had to fight again, holding the Dons at 1-1 for much of the game, and were reduced to 10 men when Michael Simpson received his marching orders. Wimbledon were awarded a penalty in stoppage time, and it appeared to be the end of the road. However, Martin Taylor saved the penalty, and the game went to extra time. Wimbledon took the lead again, but with seconds left, a stray shot fell to Paul McCarthy, who stuck out a leg and levelled it for Wycombe. The game would go to penalties. The shootout was just as tense, with it going to sudden death. With the scores at 7-7, Martin Taylor stepped up to take a penalty and slotted it in, having now both scored and saved a spot kick. Wycombe had match points. Mark Williams blazed his effort for Wimbledon over, and Wycombe went through. Against all the odds, they had reached the quarter-finals and were up against Premier League opposition in Leicester City. However, Sanchez's side would enter the game in a crisis. Wycombe was suffering a lengthy injury list due to an intense fixture schedule, and on this list were 5 strikers. Lawrie Sanchez was desperate for fresh blood and resorted to desperate measures. Offers made to Ian Wright and Gianluca Vialli were rejected, and so Sanchez got media manager Alan Hutchinson to put out an advert on the digital TV information service Ceefax. The message requested a striker who was available and not cup-tied. It was a bizarre request, but his call would soon be answered. Lawrie Essandoh was a journeyman striker who, aged 25, had already played for 6 clubs in Scotland, Austria, Finland and England, with his last club being Rushden and Diamonds, for whom he played 2 league games without scoring. Essandoh's agent spotted the Ceefax ad and phoned up Lawrie Sanchez to offer the striker's services. Sanchez asked Essandoh if he could play in a couple of reserve games, but soon asked for more. Essandoh was signed on a 2-week contract. Wycombe Wanderers travelled to Filbert Street on the 10th of March 2001 to face Leicester in the quarter-finals. Lawrie Essandoh was on the bench, with Manchester United loanee George Clegg starting up front with midfielder Keith Ryan as a makeshift striker. Wycombe proved an upset could be on the cards again when Paul McCarthy gave them the lead in the second half, but Muzzy Izzet would level the scores with just over 20 minutes left. The drama was building, with Steve Brown sent off for Wycombe, and after the ball struck Leicester midfielder Stephen Oakes in the arm, Lawrie Sanchez appealed for a penalty, but nothing was given. In his protest, Sanchez was sent off and had to watch the remainder of the game in the dressing room on a small television. With a goal desperately needed, Essandoh was sent on in hope that he could get it. In the 90th minute, a long ball was hoisted into the box and headed towards goal. There to meet it was the man himself, Lawrie Essandoh. The forward headed it beyond Simon Royce and into the net to win it for Wycombe. Sanchez celebrated with delight in the dressing room. His Ceefax gamble had paid off, and for the first ever time, Wycombe Wanderers were in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. They travelled to Villa Park to face Liverpool. Whilst holding the Reds for a lengthy period, eventually, goals from Emile Heskey and Robbie Fowler sealed it for Liverpool. And although Keith Ryan got one back for Wycombe, the dream was over. The cup run had helped clear Wycombe's debts and generated around £1 million in income for them. It was an incredible tale, one of the greatest runs in the history of the FA Cup, masterminded by the use of a digital information service. Amazingly, the goal against Leicester would be the only one Essandoh scored for Wycombe, and he would be released soon after, continuing his journeyman career in the lower leagues, before going on to be a personal trainer. Lawrie Sanchez admitted he didn't see Essandoh after the game. Roy Essandoh's place in FA Cup history, though, remains secure. Stories such as that of Roy Essandoh are what make the FA Cup unique. Wycombe Wanderers, a club who 8 years before had never been in the Football League or gone beyond the third round of the FA Cup, reached the Final Four and constantly upset the odds in dramatic style, capped off by a journeyman picking the perfect moment to get his only goal for the club. It was a remarkable chapter in the history of the competition, and it is a perfect example of the magic of the FA Cup.